Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, it was so refreshing to have Helena Wallen-Miller on last week.
Yes, it was.
To talk about the Moore County schools and not to talk about upcoming elections, not to talk about politics.
Yeah.
Just to talk about achievement. And her perspective with 5 years of experience was very refreshing.
Yes, it is. Especially with all the politics going on, it's nice to get away from it.
Well, I don't want to do anything to do with political shows. That's
not your wheelhouse, and I don't blame you.
It's not. It's all about Moore County, and it's all about what makes Moore County such a great place to live. And but the conversation that Helena and I had last week started to raise a bunch of questions about some of the topics she discussed, but we couldn't really get into them with too much depth. But we're going to have that opportunity today, and we're going to be speaking about the Restart initiative that she had spoken about or paid lip service to a little bit. And we're going to be joined today by Mariah Morris, who is the Innovation and Special Projects Coordinator. She was also the 2019 North Carolina Teacher of the Year. So we're bringing in, a lot of talent here.
Yes, we got stars in the studio today.
And we have a guy that is exceptionally shy and soft-spoken.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to get him to talk.
And his name is Dante Poole. He is the principal at Aberdeen Elementary. And I know I've said this all the time, I can't watch TV anymore. I can't listen to the news. I can't
Can anybody?
listen to the BS and the lies and the this and from both sides.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so over it.
Yeah.
So better for us to focus on organic things like schools, students, teachers, because as we said last week, we wind up as real estate brokers sometimes being the first point of contact for people moving into the area. And their number one priority, obviously aside from purchasing a home, are schools for their kids.
Oh, yeah.
And we have a lot of kids to talk about. Both my guests have ties to the Northeast. Dante, you're originally, and I'm so happy to see this, from Jersey City, New Jersey.
Yes.
So tell me about, how did you get down to Moore County?
Oh, my gosh.
Because I'm originally from Bergen County, not too far from you.
Not far at all. So back in 2006, we moved here from Trenton, New Jersey. We lived in the capital.
Yeah.
We inherited a house and 5 acres, and I have 4 sons. And
Is that right?
Yeah. And my mother-in-law was building. We were looking for a house, and the house that she was building was the one that we were looking for. It was everything we wanted in a house. And she said, the deal is you can have it and finish building it. The only deal is I get to live with you. We're like, done.
So
that was an easy decision.
So you moved from New Jersey to North Carolina
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
You went to school yourself in New Jersey.
Yes.
Grew up in Jersey City.
Grew up in Jersey City. Graduated from Ferris High School in Jersey City and completed both my undergrad and graduate work at what was then Trenton State College and now the College of New Jersey.
Small world. I actually, way back when, we used to play against Ferris. I was a varsity basketball player. And we played Ferris in a state tournament.
Yes.
And they were intimidating, but we beat them.
Nice.
And I'll never forget. And why would I even remember that? But how many years have you been down here now?
Again, since 2006. So this is my 14th year here in North Carolina.
And you've been with Moore County Schools for how long?
I've been with Moore County Schools for 13 years now.
And from the beginning, you came in as a teacher first?
I came in as a school counselor.
Okay.
I am the weirdest principal that exists right now. I was a mental health therapist my first year in North Carolina, and was serving kids in schools.
Okay.
And then was asked by a principal, Priscilla Riley, who's retired now, said, our school counselors moved to the beach. Would you come be our school counselor? And I did. And it was the best decision I ever made in my career.
Wow.
Spent 4 years as a school counselor. and then entered the Sandhills Leadership Academy program and was trained as a turnaround principal. So specific skills to turning around low-performing schools. And we spent a year learning how to do that and earned my license, and here I am.
You make me, as I'm listening to you speak, you make me go back to when I was in elementary school. We always had female teachers.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until we got to 6th grade. There were 2 male teachers in 6th grade, and we were all afraid of them. And we didn't know why, but as we got to know them, it took us till 6th grade before we had a male figure.
Yeah.
But as listening to you, I can imagine that the kids, especially in elementary school, are not, they're going to warm up to you. You have a very good personal style.
Yeah.
Not scary.
No.
Right?
I can be, but I try not to be.
Well, how long have you been the principal at Aberdeen Elementary?
This is my 5th year as the principal at Aberdeen Elementary. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to talk quite a bit about some of the things that are going on, because there's so much misinformation about what Moore County Schools is doing, and there's so many misconceptions from people who do their research before they move here, where they think they know so much about the schools. But honestly, if they just look at test scores, if they just talk to their friends who say, did you see the districts, the way they're ranked? We, as brokers, would love an opportunity to be able to give them more specific information. So that's one of the reasons you're here.
Yeah.
Mariah, you are not from Jersey City, but you have ties to Brooklyn, New York, and I always want to know how people get here. You were the 2019 Teacher of the Year, but you're from Durham originally.
I am, yeah.
How did Moore County fall on the radar and get you here, and how long have you been here?
Sure. So I grew up in Durham, and my husband, he's a teacher as well. And we were living in Greensboro because he had decided to go back to law school, and he became a lawyer. And we had just had our first child, and his family is from Scotland County. He grew up on a farm in Scotland County. They have the Morris Plant Farm. They've been there for generations. And we wanted a place that was halfway between our 2 families so that our children could know their grandparents, as well as halfway between how we both grew up. Me from the city in Durham and him from the country of Scotland County. And Moore County just kind of fits that best of both worlds.
Gotcha. How long have you been a teacher?
I have been a teacher for a little over 10 years.
Okay. You recently were the Teacher of the Year in 2019. You were a 2nd grade teacher at West Pine Elementary, but today you are serving a different role?
I am. I'm currently our Innovation and Special Projects Coordinator for Moore County Schools.
Tell me what that is.
So I get to look at all different areas of growth or problems or ways that we've always done things and think about it with a new lens through innovation. So I try and lean into the hard conversations, and I try to dig down to some of the root causes and think about things from a new perspective. So I work with a lot of different projects, but probably the most rewarding is getting to work with Dante and Miss Cooper at Southern Middle and Miss Larita at Robbins Elementary, and all 3 of those schools were just named Restart Schools.
Restart schools. Okay. What is a restart school?
Sure. So a restart school is a designation that a district can apply for if they have a chronically low-performing school. So first, the district makes the decision. We have this low-performing school that has been low-performing for 2 of the last 3 years. We're going to apply to become a restart school with the state of North Carolina. So the district creates an application that then goes to the State Board of Education in Raleigh. And the state board can choose to accept it or send it back to the district. And in our case, we're very fortunate that all 3 of our schools were accepted by the state board. That means that we have been designated a restart school for the next 5 years. And a restart school is a reform model that grants chronically low-performing schools charter-like flexibilities. So the 3 Restart schools, Aberdeen, Southern Middle, and Robbins Elementary, now have charter-like flexibilities when it comes to curriculum choices, hiring decisions, budget decisions, calendar flexibility, so they can operate like a charter school to be innovative and to try new ways of approaching old problems.
All right. So you mentioned performance. How is performance defined? And there are some misconceptions, I think, about performance as well. Can we talk about that, Dante?
Oh, yeah. So the model that North Carolina has been using is an 80-20 model. So 80% academic performance, 20% growth. Anyone in education knows that growth is where the rubber meets the road for a kid. If you're growing a kid more than a year, you're doing something awesome with that kid.
Right.
Well, we aren't getting credit for that growth.
Right.
So you only get credit for how they perform on the state test. So, for example, a K-5 school, only the 3rd through 5th graders' scores count on the ELG because they're the only ones that take it. And so how 3rd through 4th and 5th grade students perform on both the reading, the math, and for 5th grade, the science ELGs, how they calculate the achievement score. So whatever percentage of your students pass or get proficient on that test, which is changed over the years what that number is. But essentially, if a kid gets a 3 or more on the test, they're labeled proficient.
I think Helena last week spoke about the weight that was put on the test score, that it was inordinately high relative to the growth. Is that
80%?
So each school gets a report card grade, an A through an F, and that's legislated by our North Carolina General Assembly. Yeah. And when we're thinking about what letter grade that school gets, what Dante's saying is that 80% of that grade is based on proficiency. Does the student meet a certain proficiency rate? 20% is based on if that child grew the amount that they should grow, based on where they test at the beginning of the school year to where they test at the end. The problem and why this model is receiving such critiques from bipartisan leaders of our state is that proficiency is directly correlated with socioeconomic status.
Yes. Right.
So high performance on the achievement side, the proficiency side, is directly related to the income of the family. And so we have an economic bias there. Yep. However, the growth is not related or correlated to socioeconomic status whatsoever. So a school like Dante, who has a higher percentage of free and reduced lunch students, is naturally going to take a hit at that proficiency rate, and that's unrelated to anything happening in the building.
Sure enough.
I remember with the No Child Left Behind program, when people would be moving here from out of state or out of county, they would look at test scores. Okay. And when the No Child Left Behind program was factored in, I remember people saying, if you tested like students versus like students at 2 different districts or 2 different schools, the test scores were very similar. But the schools that had the No Child Left Behind program were at a disadvantage, the socioeconomic that you talk about, and that's why the scores were lower for that school. Was that accurate?
That is accurate. That is accurate. When you're looking at Aberdeen Elementary, we're historically 80% or more free and reduced lunch.
Yeah.
And what's found by research is that when you're able to balance the socioeconomic status of the school, the test scores follow.
Sure enough.
But at a school that has a low socioeconomic base, you can still grow the students exponentially. Sometimes, more growth than a higher graded school.
Sure.
And so truly in the state, and I worked on this last year, we are trying to rethink the model. And it truly has bipartisan support across the aisle of rethinking, do we move to a 50-50 growth and proficiency?
Right.
You know, we're not asking to throw out proficiency,
Right.
but we're
Right.
asking to balance it.
Yeah.
So, are people using this topic as a political football? Because I've noticed that there's, for the first time, where politics is sort of creeping on down into the school board, which doesn't seem appropriate to me. Are they using it against you?
You know, I can't speak to how they're using
Yes,
it
you
with
can.
politics.
Yes, you can.
But what I can say
Yeah.
is that the principals and the teachers are
Right.
laser focused on the growth of their students
Yes.
at Aberdeen and
Yeah.
Robbins, regardless of anything else that's going on.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. The some of the strongest teachers are in your low performing schools,
Right.
Because they're growing kids more than a year each year,
Right.
and so. Which is why we struggle with the grading system, because it doesn't tell the real picture. It doesn't tell what's really happening for kids. Parents want kids to be proficient, and what they understand about proficient is, I want my kid to be on grade level. I want my kid to be learning. But more than that, parents want kids to be safe. They want them to be loved. They want a positive school environment for their kids. They want to feel like their teacher gets their kid and is supportive to the needs of their specific kid. And those things are happening in our schools.
It seems like education is like running a race for these kids, and some of the kids have to start off the race wearing ankle weights, either because of a financial disadvantage, it could be a family, a single-parent family, and yet then they're put into the schools and they say, here, fix it. That's not the job of a teacher. It's to get them on the straight and narrow, but not every kid starts the race equally.
Well, it's a school community, remember. So
Right.
it's not just the teacher's responsibility. We share in that responsibility, and parents are invested
Right.
in making sure that they're doing their part to support what kids need. And sometimes we're discovering we don't know what that kid needs until we get them into the classroom. We see what the need is, and then we begin to work on a individualized plan for that kid to help that kid meet and grow.
Great. We're going to come back in the second set. We're going to talk the whole show today about the Restart Initiative in the school system here in Moore County. Our guests are Mariah Morris and Dante Poole, principal of the Aberdeen Elementary School. We'll be right back. We're back speaking about the Moore County Schools Restart Initiative with Mariah Morris and Dante Poole. I asked you one simple question in the first set, and that was it. I could have left the room. I just asked you what the Restart program was, and it just meandered into so many important topics. In addition to doing a Restart Initiative, you're doing it in a period in 2020 of COVID. Talk about having to pivot and how to accommodate. It's got to be very challenging.
Let's add to that we opened a brand new school in the COVID environment, talking about having to pivot. It is incredibly challenging to just educate a student in this environment.
Right.
When teachers are used to having kids face-to-face, and you have both virtual, online, some face-to-face, the hybrid, so many challenges, so many barriers. It is extremely challenging, but our teachers have risen to the occasion. They are doing the most amazing work I have ever seen teachers do, are happening and have come out of this challenged environment.
I asked Helena the question last week, and I'll ask you the same question. In this environment where there's learning at home, virtual learning, and then in school a couple of days, these kids are facing challenges kids usually don't have to deal with. Are they learning in this environment? Are they missing something in the translation at all because of the lack of steadiness in school attendance?
Well, I won't say that there's a lack of steadiness in school attendance. What I will say is that school attendance is different.
Okay.
So students, although they may only see their teacher face-to-face 2 days a week, they have interaction with that teacher 5 days a week.
That's true.
So they're continuing to learn. I said to one of my teachers recently, we were talking about a family we were struggling to connect with, and then really trying to help them wrap their minds around teaching, and said, remember, we had kids for 6 to 7 hours a day, but in those 7 hours a day, they had PE, lunch, recess, all those other things. If you strip those things and you just get down to the bare bones of education, you could educate a kid in 4 hours of the day and still get good education for that kid. We had those other things to enrich that kid's life, but we can teach a kid, and a kid can learn and get good instruction from their teachers with the minimal time that we're giving them right now. And kids are doing it, and they are growing, and it is incredible.
Mariah, you want to say something?
Sure.
Oh, I thought you did. That's okay. She can shoot from the hip, I think, with the best of them.
Absolutely.
Do you think we're going to be successful in getting the focus away from test scores solely?
Yes, I think we're already moving the needle in that capacity. With COVID hitting our schools, we have learned how important social emotional health is of our children. And that has truly been a focus statewide and in our whole nation when it comes to educating our youth. And we see that in Aberdeen Elementary and Robbins Elementary and Southern Middle at the Restart schools of understanding that crucial piece of it's not all the academic test scores, but it's the social emotional learning, it's the interacting with other people, it's the 21st century skills that employers say they're looking for. Is not can they perform on a math test or a reading test, but it's can they problem solve, can they think about information in a complex manner, can they relate to other human beings, and are they empathetic people? And those measures aren't tested currently with our standardized testing, but they are vibrant at all of these schools, and it is an integral part of their education.
Absolutely.
You know, the Moore County, people come here for jobs. They come here for schools. The demographics in Moore County in the last 15 years has changed dramatically. And I'd love you to address this, because if you had a whole room of real estate brokers, I need to ask you this question, and it's a tough question. We have people who will discard certain geographic areas to look for a home because of the district that the school is in.
Absolutely.
And what would you like the brokers to be able, how would they address that issue? Because it comes up.
Well, I'll go ahead and
Tough
say
question, I know.
that I am in all of our Restart schools.
Yep.
And I see the beauty of the education happening at these schools. I see that Mr. Poole is opening a beautiful brand new building with an A+ focus, which means that he's integrating the arts into the school. I see that he has vibrant STEM activities in the classrooms. I see the dual language program at Robbins Elementary. And these are all things that might not be captured on a test. But see, I have the special background that I grew up in a very diverse neighborhood. And I didn't go to schools with people who looked just like me. And I went to schools that some families probably chose not to send their children to or buy a house in that neighborhood. And that was the best blessing that my family could have ever given me. And I believe that's why I was successful as a teacher, because I learned so much about how to interact with human beings and how to see the beauty of all different stories. And if you're choosing to send your child to Aberdeen Elementary, you're choosing to give your child a real authentic education.
She's pretty impressive. I'm enrolled. I'm completely enrolled. Can you talk a little bit about the ratio, the teacher-to-student ratios in these schools with the Restart program? Is it different than the schools that are not part of the program?
We're working to make it a little different. It's not different currently because, remember, we're in our first year. And so I'll give you an example. One of the struggles that we've had is our 4th and 5th grade. So there's a K-3 class size law. And why they stopped at 3rd grade, I don't know. But so the K-3 class sizes are only allowed to get to a certain number. Well, 4th and 5th grade classes could be up to 35 kids in a class.
Right. One teacher to 35.
One teacher to 30 to 35 kids.
Okay.
That is hard to do.
I loved that as a kid because I loved to hide out.
Yes.
And I was a hider-outer.
Yeah.
I would think I was a kangaroo, and I'd put my head in a pouch, and nobody would see me or hear me. No, that's the truth.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I got through school.
What the Restart flexibility has allowed me to do is I was awarded 2 more teacher allotments, and I put those teacher allotments in 4th and 5th grade to lower those class sizes so that across the building, I have classes that are averaging now in the 20s as opposed to, them being down real low in between 18 and 21 and K3 and 30. Now, because we do that, now that teacher can give more individualized attention to a smaller group of students, and we can grow them deeper and faster because of it.
Okay. How long has this program been going on now from the Restart?
The Restart model, this is our first year of implementation in Moore County.
And realistically, how much time will it need before you can look back with a perspective? Because it's in its infancy.
It is. And we have intentionally made sure to use these first few months to build a solid foundation.
Right.
And so we are educating ourselves and learning about the flexibilities and making sure that we are intentionally bringing the teachers of the building and the families and the communities on board so that we're not doing this to them. And so that they're not viewing this as just another reform movement being brought down from higher up to them. We're building out Restart teams at the schools or their school improvement teams where teachers are actively making decisions in these processes. And so we're trying to be very strategic, and then we will monitor the success of each flexibility that we utilize by having a benchmark of targeting our flexibility toward a specific growth area, measuring it at the beginning, implementing the action steps, and then monitoring to see how successful it was at the end. And that might be academic, but also might be school culture. So we're going to capture the success or the failures of the flexibilities in an ongoing process, and we're going to lean into those failures when we have them, because we will have them, because nothing great ever happened without pushing yourself.
Right.
And with innovation comes that risk, and we're going to fail forward and use that data to keep on moving.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the morale of the teachers in this program. I mean, this has been a challenging year, but you also have to not just enroll the students, you've got to get all these teachers. I mean, I've heard more comments from so many moms about how much they value the teachers. Obviously, many of the moms who have full-time jobs, they are not having an easy time of it at home with the kids, and their stress level is pretty high. A greater appreciation has come out of this.
It has. And I want to give some dads some credit, too, because it's not just moms. It's dads at home, too, making it work.
You're right. You're right.
Grandmas and grandpas.
And grandmas and grandpas and aunts. It's really the whole family. Look, there are big brothers and big sisters as well that are at home while mom and dad may be at work that are helping their younger brother and sister with their schoolwork. And so it really has been a community effort. I was really excited to receive an email yesterday from a parent who expressed her gratitude for the work that a teacher in my building was doing for her child. And, you know, when you share that with teachers, they're so grateful because they need to know that people appreciate the sacrifices that they make. Because teaching is not a 9-to-5 job. Teaching is a 7-day-a-week job. And so they're grading papers, they're making lesson plans. that happens all the time.
Right.
And so teachers are tired because of the shift that we've had to make, but they're also grateful because they're seeing good things happen with kids. And so we do things in our building to boost morale for our teachers. So last payday, we got a cart of cookies, and we just went around and said, hey, we appreciate what you do. Have a cookie today. And that cookie went such a long way. Just little things like we have the food trucks come and be around for lunch so that teachers could go, and because they don't have the privilege of going out to lunch anywhere. So just being mindful of those things. Parents are donating waters and individualized snacks for kids in classrooms, and that's stuff that they would normally do. But it's going such a long way for teachers who are just doing all they can to make sure kids are safe and that they're learning. And so, yeah, it's a tough environment. And I tell them, I said, your educators, they're struggling, but they're okay. They're resilient folk too. So they keep pressing forward because they have a deep, long, loving desire for kids to get what they need.
I think the Moore County School should start a separate public relations department and put the two of you guys at the head of it. Really, both very impressive. We're going to come back in the third set, speaking about the Moore County Schools Restart Initiative with Mariah Morris and Dante Poole. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back, and I think I'm loud, but we're back. This is All Things Moore County. We're going to be wrapping up our show with Mariah Morris and Dante Poole on the Moore County Schools Restart Initiative. During the break, it was mentioned in our off-the-mic conversation that elementary school teachers are the champions of education.
Yeah.
I remember, and my sisters remember, our elementary school teachers by name, by personality, by nuance. Those impressions stay with us all our lives. Elementary school is, those formative years are the ones where the impression is the strongest, isn't it?
It is. You think about that teacher probably spends more time with that kid than their parent does.
Right.
You know, and those relationships that they build, oh man, are incredible. They watch a kid come in their door in August or September, and they watch them grow over a 10-month period of every day seeing that kid struggling with the struggles, championing in the celebrations. I mean, everything. They celebrate their birthdays, everything together.
Losing their teeth.
Yes, you know, they come in, they're this tall, they grow another 2 inches over the school year, you know. And then if you're in the same school, you get to watch that kid who you had in second grade become a fourth and fifth grade. Oh, there is nothing like it, man.
But I want to just give a shout out to the high school, middle, and high school teachers, too. My husband's a high school teacher.
Okay.
And, you know, he's able, and all the high school teachers, he's at Pinecrest, they're able to take the kids at that pivotal moment of what is my life going to look like?
Yes.
And really expand their horizons.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful to see that transformation as well of, you know, this child, there might just be something different for them outside of what they thought was possible. And they might just be able to go to college and help them connect the dots to financial aid. So really, K-12 or pre-K-12 teachers, they make the magic happen.
They do.
Yeah. I remember, real quick, I was a third grader. I came home with a math test. I was in Brooklyn. I got an A. I never got an A. I got all the answers right.
This was a big deal.
I took the test home to show my mother, and I wanted to be praised and patted on the back. My mother took one look at the sheet and said, "She can't give you an A for this." I said, "Huh?" She goes, I can't even read it. It's so sloppy. That's a true story. And I go, Mom, I got all the answers right. I had pencil erasers. I had holes on the paper everywhere. It looked like it had been through a fan.
But it was an A.
My mother said, no, we have to go talk to the teacher. We did. I felt so betrayed. She took me in and she said, you can't give my son an A for this because you're encouraging him to be sloppy.
Oh.
Can you imagine?
Oh, man.
To this day, my mother was right. I have the worst penmanship ever. I just can't. My impatience comes out in my pen or my whatever. But you remember those experiences like they just happened.
Yeah. If you come back down to elementary, we'll fix that handwriting.
Could you
for
do
you.
that?
Yeah, we'll get that right for you.
You mentioned that you are responsible at Aberdeen Elementary for hiring teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about the litmus test that you use in doing so?
Yeah. I don't want a cookie cutter teacher. First of all, I want a teacher who's confident. Who's even if they're a new teacher, I hire new teachers. As a matter of fact, almost half the staff are beginning teachers at my school. But you got to be a teacher who is willing to be innovative, creative, risk-taking. You got to care deeply about kids. In the interview, I tell them, you got to be willing to get your life dirty with the lives of kids.
Yeah.
That you can't just want to come in and teach the nice ones that follow all the rules. And no, but you got to be willing to get down and gritty with the ones who are struggling, because those are the ones that I've learned that it's not the A student that does the amazing thing. They do amazing things. But man,
the most successful teachers are the ones that genuinely care.
Yeah, yes,
about the students.
yeah. So I want that teacher, and I tell them I'm going to treat you like a professional. I'm going to give you the leeway to try new things. Right? You got to keep me out of jail, keep me out of the newspaper, and keep me hired. You do those three things, the sky's the limit for you. You can try things, and they are, again, those are the kinds of teachers that we have at Aberdeen Elementary.
So the flexibility that you have in the Restart program, can we talk a little bit about that? We mentioned it in the first set, but we didn't really get into the nitty-gritty.
I'm going to let Mariah talk about those flexibilities, and I'm going to chime in on how we're using them.
Sure.
Yeah.
So under the Restart flexibility, our schools have been granted permission from the state to dream big. The state did not take over our schools. It's nothing like that. The state is saying, we believe in your plan, and we want to help you actualize your plan by removing some of the statutes and limitations that traditional public schools have to follow. Examples: with charter schools, only 50% of the staff or the teaching staff has to be licensed to teach. So
I didn't know that.
now at Aberdeen, they and our other two Restart schools, they have the flexibility to hire teachers who are not certified in their subject area, with the exception that EC teachers will always have to be certified and CTE teachers will always have to be certified. What that means is not that Dante is going to go out and just hire people, because they want to teach.
Right.
But he can strategically use that flexibility to advance his school. For example, if he wants to really target some of his high-flying fifth graders who are academically ahead, he could hire a teacher with seventh grade teaching credential from the middle school level to come down and really use some of those strategies to push forward some of his accelerated students. Or if he wanted to hire an EC teacher to teach first grade, to scaffold and to model some of those EC strategies, he has that flexibility. Or if he wanted to have a specials on social emotional learning, he could hire a licensed counselor to come in.
Right.
So they don't do it willy-nilly, but they do it strategically.
Yeah.
There's also flexibility for curriculum. If he wanted to create his own curriculum to have problem-based learning or STEM or the arts integration, he can do that. There's also flexibility for calendar. Sometimes Restart schools very successfully target their calendar to bring students back earlier from summer break, knowing about the summer slide, or to extend the school day, or to have different work days. There's also flexibility with budget. So traditional school budgets, you get money in certain buckets, but in charter schools and restart schools, there's more openness across budget lines so that he could take or curriculum budget bucket and utilize it to hire more personnel, for example.
Okay.
Yeah. We were talking recently with my school improvement team and some other leadership in the building about, we were just dreaming. It's like, wouldn't it be awesome for students who had no preschool, for us to bring them in the summer and run a program where we prepared them for kindergarten,
Right.
so that they were ready when they came in the door,
Right.
with the capacity to do more than a kid. I mean, if a kid hasn't been to preschool, sometimes they don't know how to be in a room with other kids in a learning environment, and you have to teach them how to be in school.
It's called marinating the steak.
Yes, that's exactly what we want to do. We want to marinate the steak so that
Right.
when we put it on the grill, we
Right.
got something good happening.
Right. Who are you accountable to? Who's the overseeing body of this program that you have to answer to?
So all restart schools are still part of their local LEAs, which is their local education association, which for us is Moore County Schools.
Okay.
So we are still part of Moore County Schools.
So there's no big brother?
Nope, there's
okay.
no big brother. We are still fully under the umbrella of our leadership in Moore County Schools. Every year, except for your first year, we will submit a documented plan of what we have done to DPI in Raleigh. But that is for feedback, and that is for coaching. And have you thought about this? Have you considered that? This program is really to unlock the potential that we have in our own district.
Yeah.
Okay. The board is behind you guys 100%?
Yes, they are.
Enthusiastic?
They are.
Yeah. 2 years from now, a year and a half from now, where do you want to be? You're coming back. You're invited to come back in a year and a half. What do you want to tell me about the progress of the program?
In 2 years from now, you're going to be inviting me back because
You're invited.
the conversation will be that that some great things really did happen as a result of this restart effort. That that your achievement level is up. That you're busting at the seams because people are moving to the area because they want their kid to be at Aberdeen Elementary School. You have some of the top-notch teachers in the room. Some of the most innovative programming is happening at your school, and it is incredible to watch and see what is being produced out of that building.
Yeah. The greatest advertising for the success of your program will be the moms and the dads of the students when they speak and how happy their child is in the environment that they're in. That speaks volumes, and that trumps the test scores and the standard things that people look at these days online.
Yeah, I have two things that you reminded me of. I have a teacher in my building who came because she heard. She comes from up north, and she has family down here. And the word on the street is that if you are a teacher and you work at Aberdeen Elementary School, you're a happy teacher, right? The second thing is I had another mom say that she talked to other moms before they moved to the area. And those moms said, send your kid to Aberdeen Elementary School. Don't look at the school grade because that doesn't tell the story.
That's right.
Send your kid there. Your kid will be happy there.
Go ahead, Mariah.
One of the most powerful things that we've done is reach out to other schools that have been successful with the Restart model. And those successful schools have radically included the student voice and the parent voice and the teacher voice in their decision making. And I think that if I look back in 2 years and I think, has this been successful? I want this to be a program that is radically responsive to each and every child and their strengths, and not coming at it from this deficit model of you're not good enough, you're not reading proficiently, but you know what? You're a beautiful child with a beautiful mind. This is how you learn. Now, how can we support that?
Wow. Changing the culture is a very exciting place to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me like you guys are at the cusp of actually trying to do that and change the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't trying. We're
Yeah,
doing it.
We're doing it.
You are doing
We're
it.
We are
doing
doing it. Yeah.
If people had any questions, people who are moving into the Aberdeen or Robbins area, is there a place they can go to call to speak about or ask questions about the Restart Initiative or about the school itself?
Yeah. If they want to specifically know about Aberdeen Elementary School, they can just call us at 910-947-8030. They could email me directly. It's D as in dog, Poole, Poole, at NC, like North Carolina, MCS, like moorecountyschools.org. Either of those is going to get you a response from us.
Okay. I appreciate both you guys coming in and speaking. You're great spokespeople for the program. Very energetic, very proactive. If you need a penmanship teacher, give me a call. I'm not certified, but I can tell people my mom was right. You need to be able to write neatly. Mariah, thank you so much for coming to join. It was a pleasure to meet you, and Dante, a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for having us.
You're always welcome back. Whenever you have any progress that you want to report, anything that's exciting and new, as long as the moms and the dads and the kids can benefit, the door's always open.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
This is All Things Moore County. Everybody have a great week. Thank you.